The phone scream shattered the stillness of my bedroom, ripping me from sleep at 1:53 a.m. My heart thudded as I grabbed it, the screen glaring with caregiver Paul. My uncle Paul, paralyzed from the waist down since a car wreck 12 years ago, never called this late unless disaster loomed. I answered, voice trembling. "Hello. Sarah, it's Clara," gasped Paul's caregiver, her words frantic. "Come quick. Something's wrong with Duke." Duke, Paul's golden retriever Sarah VYC dog, was his lifeline trained to fetch keys, open doors, and alert Clara if Paul fell. The neighborhood loved Duke's gentle eyes and wagging tail. The thought of him in danger hit like a fist. I yanked on a jacket, shoved my feet into sneakers, and raced out, the night air biting my skin. 10 minutes later, I screeched into Paul's driveway. Clara stood on the porch, her face pale under the harsh light, hands twisting. "He's inside," she whispered. I bolted in, finding Paul in his wheelchair, his face etched with fear. Duke lay sprawled on the Lee VY room floor, his breathing shallow, eyes half open and glassy. "He won't move," Paul said, voice breaking. "He was fine earlier." I knelt beside Duke, stroking his fur. He was warm but unresponsive, his paw limp when I pressed it. "What happened?" I asked Clara. She explained Duke had been in the backyard for his evening run, chasing a ball. She checked on him, and he seemed normal. But an hour later, he was stumbling, drooling, then collapsed. "No toxins in the yard," she insisted. "No pesticides, nothing." "We're taking him to the vet," I said, forcing calm. We wrapped Duke in a blanket, gently lifting him into my car. Paul followed, his wheelchair rattling. The drive to the 24-hour clinic was tense, my mind spinning. Poison? An accident? Or something deliberate? At the clinic DR, Emily Tran took one look at Duke's dilated pupils and slow pulse. "He's been sedated or poisoned," she said, hooking him to N4. "Likely a depressant. We'll run a tox screen." She drew blood, then asked, "Any chance he got into meds? Chemicals?" I shook my head. "He was fine hours ago. Just in the backyard." DR. Tran's eyes narrowed. "This looks intentional. We'll monitor him closely." His breathing could falter. The word intentional chilled me. I returned to Paul's at dawn, Leah VYing Duke stabilized. Paul was slumped, exhausted. Clara hovered, offering coffee he ignored. "He's hanging in there," I said, relaying DR. Tran's cautious hope. "But we need to know how this happened." Paul's voice was raw. "Who'd hurt Duke? He's never bothered anyone." I hesitated, then voiced my fear. "What about Helen Price?" Helen, the HOA president, was a neighborhood tyrant, finding people for Tri-VY Elides-approved mailbox colors, a stray weed. She'd been hounding Paul about his wheelchair ramps, aesthetic violation, and Duke's rare barks, even sending a letter threatening fines for noise disturbances. Paul's jaw tightened. "You think she'd poison him?" "That's sick." "It's possible," I said. Clara nodded. "I saw her by the fence yesterday evening, holding a small bag. I thought she was just snooping." My stomach churned. We searched the backyard, a small space with a low fence easy for someone to toss something over. We found nothing but Duke's chewed tennis ball. Still, my suspicion grew. The next day, DR. Tran called. Duke had benzodiazepines in his system, a human sedative, dangerously high. "This wasn't accidental," she said. "He's lucky to serve VYV." Paul paled. Clara gripped the table. My anger surged. Helen had once joked about quieting noisy dogs at an HOA meeting. Now it felt sinister. I grabbed a notebook, documenting the timeline, Clara's citing DR. Tran's report. IVY cited trusted neighbors. Mrs. Chin saw Helen near Paul's yard at dusk, carrying something. "She looked sneaky," Mrs. Chin said. Mr. Lopez heard Helen ran about problem pets at the last HOA meeting, glaring at Paul. "It wasn't proof, but it was close." I called the police. Officer Daniels took my statement, but sighed. "It's all circumstantial. Give me hard EVY Denke." Frustrated, I ordered security cameras for Paul's yard. Clara promised to watch Duke closely. That evening, an HOA forum post from Helen urged residents to eliminate disruptive animals. It was aimed at Duke. Duke came home 2 days later, groggy but wagging. Paul wept, hugging him. But Helen escalated, sending a violation notice for uncontrolled animal behavior, or threatening fines unless Duke was retrained. It was absurd but official-looking. Furious, I went with Paul to the next HOA meeting. Helen sat at the front, her smile icy. I stood, voice steady. Duke's a Ser VYC dog, critical to my uncle's life. Someone poisoned him with sedatives. We believe it's linked to HOA harassment. Helen smirked. Serious claims require proof. Residents have complained about noise. We must maintain standards. Show the complaints, I demanded. She waved me off. Confidential. Paul, trembling, said Duke nearly died. Who's doing this? Murmurs spread, but Helen shut us down. Clara later whispered, I overheard Helen on the phone, bragging about handling that dog. No recording, but it was her. That was it. With Paul's okay, I hid an audio recorder in a fake garden known by the fence and upgraded the cameras. 3 nights later, my phone pinged at 8:15 p.m. The camera showed a figure tossing something over the fence. I ran out, flipping on floodlights. The figure Helen's height, her distinctive coat, dropped a container and fled. I chased but lost her. In the yard, I found a tub of meat scraps, reeking of chemicals. Officer Daniels came, bagging the container and taking the footage. This is solid, he said. Lab results confirmed benzodiazepines, matching Duke's poisoning. Helen was questioned but claimed she was out of town. Neighbors, fed up, shared stories of her fines and threats. Rumors swirled of her skimming HOA funds. A county investigator, Agent Mark Reed, VY, cited Paul, probing Helen's finances. We suspect fraud, Reed said. Paul mentioned her fines and shady home sales. Reed nodded. This could be big. News broke, and a reporter interviewed Paul. He spoke of Duke's near death, hinting at HOA corruption. The story aired, sparking outrage. Helen's forum, rants accusing us of slander, backfired. Neighbors demanded her ouster. Helen was arrested a week later. Her phone had texts boasting about shutting up that mutt with a pill. The container had her fingerprint. She faced animal cruelty and fraud charges after investigators found she'd funneled HOA dues into her accounts, forging invoices. At the hearing, she pleaded not guilty, claiming a frame-up. The judge wasn't swayed. The HOA board removed Helen, apologizing to Paul and YVYing his fines. Neighbors brought food and toys, atoning for their silence. Paul, grateful, rebuilt trust. At trial, I testified about Duke's collapse. Clara shared Helen's overheard boast. Dr. Tran detailed the sedative's danger. The text sealed it. Dog's quiet now. Benzos work. The jury convicted Helen of cruelty and fraud. The judge sentenced her to 2 years in restitution. Outside court, Paul, with Duke at his side, said, "We just wanted peace." I added, "This was about abuse of power." It stops here. The neighborhood changed. New HOA leaders scrapped Helen's rules, and Paul's yard got a taller fence, built by volunteers. Claire started pet sitting, and I add VY said others on HOA fights. Paul's life eased. He read on his porch, Duke napping nearby, as neighbors waved. On the poisoning's anniversary, Dr. Tran sent a note to Duke, the Sir VY vor. Paul hung it proudly. One morning, over coffee, he asked, "Think Helen regrets it?" "Maybe," I said. "But she lost everything." Paul smiled. "This is home. Duke and I won." In the sunlight, Duke's tail thumped, a quiet promise of peace reclaimed. If you were the one in this story, how would you react? Would you stand up and fight back, or accept the unreasonable pressure and control from the HOA? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video with more people. Your small action gives us the motivation to keep bringing you more intense and engaging stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.